Let's bring in Dr. Anand Swaminathan. He's an emergency medicine physician in New Jersey. Doctor, it's always good to talk to you. Let me just get your response to what the president said. How realistic is it if we're talking about having everybody vaccinated by July?
Well, we've heard of different things from different people. Dr. Fauci has said he expects to have enough vaccine for anybody who wants to get it, or the vast majority of Americans to want to get it by the end of April, maybe beginning of May. So we've heard a little bit of different mixed messages there. But there's a difference between getting enough vaccine for everybody or having enough vaccine for everybody and then getting everybody vaccinated. So the vaccines in arms is a little bit different. And there are a lot of challenges here. I think that the administration has three big challenges. One is supply. So what we're seeing now is somewhere around 1.7 million doses being given per day. That's a good place to start, but we need to get that up to about 3 million. That should be the goal. 3 million shots per day in the United States. And the supply should meet that by April. Moderna and Pfizer are saying that they'll have over 3 million doses available per day starting in April. So that's a good thing. The DPA has helped that. But then there are two other parts that I don't think we're spending enough time targeting, which is demand and then the logistics or the delivery of vaccine. And demand, we see that there are lots of people trying to sign up and get it, but I'm talking about demand in some of the harder to reach populations, some minority communities, marginalized communities that we really need to be reaching out and creating answers for how they get their vaccine, as well as providing education as to the safety of these vaccines, which I think has been a hard problem. And then lastly is the logistics. How do we actually deliver the vaccines into people's arms? And we've been really relying on these mass sites vaccinating in hospitals. What we need to do is really get to the people, get the vaccine to the people, not the other way around. And the way we do that is by having mobile units, by using churches, by using schools, by using any place that we can. We've seen a little bit more of a focus on health community sites. And I think that's going to help pharmacies, but we really need to be ramping that up even more.
Yeah, that was going to be my question because, we've been talking about this for a few weeks now, but some of the states leading the percent populations with at least one dose might surprise a lot of our viewers. When you think about Alaska, that would seem to be one of those ones that seems rather spacious and trying to get everybody out there, but also West Virginia, which is another state that kind of leaned into the local pharmacy route here. So what have you made of maybe the distributional challenges when it comes to getting shots in arms and how that looks different state by state and what it seems to indicate about the best path forward?
The varied approaches we see state by state really underscores our lack of a federal response. And we're still ramping up and we're still getting there, but we really do need an organized response. And what we're learning is having these massive vaccination centers, they're not going to be the fix for everybody because not everybody can get to those centers. And again, I think we are trying to do this the way that we look at flu vaccines as opposed to the way that we did smallpox vaccines. Get the vaccine to the people, get the vaccine where people are. Don't make it hard. Don't make it difficult for people to get the vaccine. Bring the vaccine to them. And again, that's using all of these small sites. Pharmacies are a great way because most communities do have a pharmacy, but we need to be reaching out not just to retail pharmacies, but the smaller local mom and pop owned pharmacies. Those need to be in the mix as well. But then using community centers. Churches are a great place to use. And that's also a community that we can tap into to help with communication of the safety of these vaccines, especially again in those marginalized populations.
You mentioned the concern about logistics and making sure the vaccines get into the arms of those who need it. You look at a state like Texas and seeing what's playing out right there with the power outages. There's already been reports of vaccines, obviously, that needed to be stored in a certain way, the power going out there as well. When you look at that, what kind of step back do you see, and how big of a concern is that, especially that we're still in mid-February and these storms are not likely specific to Texas?
These are real challenges because, again, we're talking about getting more vaccine out to smaller locations. Those smaller locations are also less likely to have the electrical support if there is a storm, if there's outages. So we do need to take all of those things into account. And this is why this is such a big logistical hurdle is how do we get everything out there? And, this doesn't even take into account the number of people, the manpower that we need to deliver vaccines. So we need to also train people to do vaccinations, train our paramedics, train our EMTs. We should have a medical corps similar to Teach for America, where we are getting young people, we are training them. This is not a hard thing to do to deliver a shot. We are training people to deliver these shots. And, however we need to compensate those volunteers, we should be doing that. But we should be really organizing a huge mass of workers to deliver these shots. And again, a logistical planning is the key. Last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, we talked about using National Guard troops. That's a great thing because the Army, the military has great logistics. They have ways of fixing these problems that we need to tap into.
All right, Dr. Anand Swaminathan, appreciate you coming back on here to chat all that. Very interesting stuff, and we'll have you back to discuss the way that we are hoping to see improvements on that front. But thanks again for taking the time to join today.